Everybody, welcome to Shift Happens here at Spartanburg Toyota, located in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I'm Allie.
I'm Ben.
And I should probably start by saying that he didn't exactly volunteer for this.
I was forced.
And more so dragged into it. Probably more accurate. We'll see where this goes.
Yeah. My name's Ben Albright. I'm the fixed operations director here. I know absolutely nobody watching this podcast has any idea what that is, but hopefully by the end, me and Allie will be able to shed a little bit of light on that. So I think we're going to start out by introducing ourselves, kind of how we got into the automotive industry, a little bit more later on about, talk about a few things that we hear from our customers and some of our employees that we felt like we could just inform everybody watching a little bit more about our business and a little bit of a walk in the, the day in the life of what we do. So I'll kind of start out by saying like once again, my name's Ben Albright. Started with Toyota whenever I was 17. Kind of how I got into that when I was 16. I graduated. Dad walked into my room and said, "You can either get a job or go to college." So my grandfather was a mechanic. It was the only thing that I really knew anything about whatsoever. So I said, well, it can't be that hard working on cars, so I think I'll go to school to do that. So many years later, here I am. Like I said, started when I was 17 as an express technician at another local Toyota store. Whenever I was 20, I came to this store. I've been here 15, going on 16 years. Technician most of my career, then a shop foreman, then became a service manager, and now fixed operations director, looking over great people like Allie. So I'll let Allie tell us a little bit more about her story and kind of how she got in the career. She hadn't been a Toyota girl too long, but certainly been in the automotive business for a while. So.
Oh yeah. So I'm Allie. I started in the automotive industry about 10 years ago. I started at a local dealership, actually Subaru and Mazda, as a lube advisor, a quick lube advisor. So just typically like your oil changes, wipers, filters, things like that. I left there and I worked for a European shop for about 6-7 years. Throw that in there. But I moved over here to Toyota. I've been here for about 4 months or so, I believe.
Yep.
But basically how I got into the industry, my dad and my brother were always building go-karts and 4-cylinders and V8s growing up, and I'm just one of those types of people. I want to help people understand what's going on, but I'm also the person that wants to know why it's broken and how to fix it and things like that. So that's typically what I do. I'm just your communicator between the tech and the customer. That way you guys understand how and why, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, so I think, a little bit more about what Allie does. We're going to get into that and kind of, how she's the first person you see when you get here. She takes care of you. So a little bit more about the podcast. So a lot of people that are going to watch this, see this, other employees, people that we've both worked with in the past. I think the biggest thing is going to be nobody would ever see me doing this. So they're laughing now, but they're probably going to be on here a little bit later in one of the podcasts. So Allie came. Obviously, we've done a lot of social media stuff together. I'm typically the guy in the background. I help her with some of her scripts. She's got the great personality for, Spartanburg Toyota. She's the face that people see on social media most of the time in the service department. But she taught me into doing this, so I'm super excited about it, to talk about some of the things that, customers want to know, like I said, employees want to know, or they hear from customers, and to shed a little bit of light on that. So one of the biggest things, first and foremost, fixed operations, for those of y'all who do not know, is service, parts, and then body shop if there's a body shop on the premises. We're lucky enough to have all three. So Allie obviously works in service. She's a service advisor. Like I said, I was a technician growing up, so you're going to get to see a little bit of a stance of both. I still kind of think of things like a technician. Allie obviously does like an advisor. And then over some of the next few podcasts, we're going to have some visitors, parts guys, maybe some technicians, some more advisors, and get a little bit more, just to hear what our viewers want to see and want to hear a little bit more about. But
different perspectives.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the biggest things, whenever you hear dealership or think dealership or people talk about dealerships, and some of the things that we hear the most is, Allie being the service advisor. Whenever you bring your vehicle in, she's the first person you see. She's kind of like the nurse at the doctor. What's wrong with your car? What's it doing? When's it make the noise? Whatever you're here for, even if it's just routine maintenance. She gets the vehicle, all the information, writes it up, and then she's the person that keeps people like me on task and makes sure that the technician gets the job done in a timely manner, and then whatever the technician's findings are.
We write the prescription to fix it.
Yeah. One thing that we did want to talk about a little bit today that we hear a ton is, whenever I bring my car to the dealer, they always find something. It's always, I never come and get just a clean bill of health, and a lot of that is perspective. So we're gonna shed a little bit of light on that today and talk about it a little bit, and hopefully get you a little bit better understanding of what we do and what Allie does and kind of what happens behind the scenes. So I'm going to let Allie talk a little bit about the difference between repair work and then maintenance and then preventative maintenance, and I'll interject some from a technician standpoint and see if we can get a little bit better understanding there.
Why do people wait until something breaks on their car? A lot of the times what happens is, I, of course, will be a little bit hypocritical. You get in your car and it's got gas, you put it in drive, and it goes. Great, wonderful. But what happens when, you start feeling a brake shudder, or you start hearing the grinding, or whatever it may be? Why do we wait until the moment something breaks to bring our car in? Why do people do that? I get life, I get everybody's busy, but people run into the issue of waiting until it breaks, and then we're at a more costly repair instead of the preventative maintenance side of things. Just for instance, we're on, topic about brakes. Okay, great. We wait until it gets to the point where you need a caliper, or,
Rotors,
you go from, X amount of money to extravagant amounts of money just to fix a problem that should have been dealt with on the front end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, that's one thing. But, there's just there's a huge difference between us doing the preventative maintenance side of things versus now we're having to do huge repairs.
Yeah. And I think it's worth saying, there's two types of people in the world. There are people that believe in preventative maintenance, and they want to do everything in their power and within their budget to make sure that they don't have to deal with those big costly repairs.
Exactly.
I am not a preventative maintenance guy on my stuff. I was born and raised working on junk. I drove junk. I always had to work on stuff. You didn't really have to worry about preventative maintenance because you were going to have to work on it regardless. My dad, and I'm sure my mom will see this at some point, can testify to that. I have not been, I'm a procrastinator. I don't do preventative maintenance. My dad, my mom both are the exact opposite. My dad does every piece of preventative maintenance, buys every extended warranty, just because that's what he believes in, and it works great. Like I said, I think it's worth saying there's nothing wrong with either. We service both personalities, the people that They wanna do all their preventative maintenance. They want to make sure everything's good to go. And then we also deal with the customers that maybe either it's not within their budget, or they just want to drive it until it breaks. We're okay with both. We service both. We've got both of those personalities probably sitting in this room.
Absolutely.
Allie's a little bit more preventative maintenance than I am. So it doesn't matter. It's our job and Allie's job to make sure that we give you those options whenever you come, and to make sure that we do tell you about the preventative maintenance items that we offer.
Correct.
Because they are great. They are great, but I think the reality right now is, more than ever, is things are expensive.
Correct.
Gas, I just saw at a gas station down the road overnight went up 60 cents a gallon. Groceries that are an all-time high. So there are some things that, whenever people come in, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 17. I'll be 36 in November. The first thing that people stop spending money on when things get tough is their vehicle.
Absolutely.
Kind of like Allie said a minute ago, if you put gas in it, it starts up and it goes.
We're in good standings at that point.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And that's perfectly fine. We obviously, we have to pay the same bills that everybody else does. So we understand when things get tough that, and it's our job and Allie's job for us to tell you, what is immediate today. Obviously if your brakes are, metal to metal, and you got, we're watching you put 3 kids in the car, it's Allie's job and our advisors to let you know, hey, that is an important thing that we need to take care of today if we can figure it out. Some of the other things that they may recommend can wait. A transmission fluid exchange or coolant exchange, or even wiper blades. I mean, I don't really like waiting on wiper blades, but if we have to pick between brakes and wiper blades, there's no use in seeing where you're going if you can't stop when you get there.
Right.
So
yeah, and talking about the prioritizing things, us as service advisors do that. Like in yesterday's scenario, I had a lady that had reached out to me, and she said that she had a few recommendations for the last time she was here, and she wanted to discuss them. So of course, at that point in time, I'm going to pull up the recommendation list, and I'm going to say, okay, what does she need to take care of first? And she said she wanted to take care of her drive belt. We recommend drive belts every 60,000.
Yeah.
So, but when I went down the recommendation list, she needed brakes. She was pretty adamant about doing her belt, but that's where it's my job to let you know, hey, one thing versus the other, what do we need to prioritize? And definitely putting brakes on the car was definitely the priority there. So we kind of flipped the script a little bit and got her adjusted that way she could come in and get that safety concern taken care of. But I think that's kind of where it leads us into why our inspections matter and why we do these.
Yeah, and so I think one thing that people, the perception is different. One thing that we hear a lot is,
we're just trying to find something.
Yeah, trying to find something. I think sometimes, in my career, not necessarily as a technician, because we don't really. The great thing about a technician is you're not really customer facing, and Allie knows this, being a service advisor for a really long time. She has to deal with you in whatever mood that you're in for the day, whether that be you just want $1,000 on a scratch-off ticket, or you're hanging the phone up in our service drive after you just had an argument with your spouse, and you're not in the best mood. So that there can be some areas to overcome, but I think something that we hear a lot is, well, you're recommending it because maybe I'm male or female or young or old or whatever it is. But the truth and the reality is, and I can tell you this from being a technician my entire career, there is not a technician back there that looks at the name of a customer, has any idea how old you are, how young you are, male, female. And we've done some studies on it in the past, and it's truly so intermingled. It's not like we service more women than men or young people than old people.
Correct.
We have all kinds, ages, types, whatever you want to say, throughout the day. So I mean, technicians, they have absolutely no idea whose car they're working on.
Right.
You know, we train on processes here, and you know that to look over the vehicle, and then you know obviously recommend whatever the vehicle needs, and then it's up to Allie and some of our other advisor team to break those down into, you know, what's an important repair thing today, and then you know what's preventative maintenance that can wait. You know, I tell a lot of people when I explain it to customers, you know, air conditioning is something that you never have to sell to people. When it's 103 degrees real feel in June or July, and people come in with broken AC, nobody really cares what it costs, or nobody, you know, there's no preventative maintenance. See, everybody understands the difference in repair and preventative maintenance in that sense. But you know, it's just like your air conditioner at home. There's people that, my dad for one, you know, gets his AC serviced at his house every year. I have never had my AC serviced in my entire life at my house. I've definitely paid for repairs.
Can't say I have either.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so it's one of those things where, does it help? Does it make things last longer? Yes, absolutely. I think some of the cool things about the preventative maintenance that we do on vehicles is we're partnered with a company that, you know, some of the preventative maintenance that we offer actually comes with an extended warranty as well. So, you know, we always talk about value and building value and making sure that customers understand the value. It's a whole lot easier to understand the value of air conditioner, because when you get in your car and it's 103 degrees, nobody has to explain the value of air conditioner.
Exactly.
Now, sometimes it can be a little bit harder to understand the value of a transmission fluid exchange when your car is shifting perfectly, you put it in drive this morning, you got the kids to school, you got to work, everything was good. You know, and that can be some of the battle, and some of the where Allie and some of our other advisors, like I said, have to go into their training and you know what we talk about daily and meet about in our processes to make sure that the customer understands, you know, what their options are, what is necessary right now, what can wait, and you know, Allie does a really good job. We got a bunch of advisors that do a really good job with that.
Yeah. So kind of going into that a little bit, like walk around inspections. So generally, you know, first thing when you pull in, you're going to be greeted by one of our advisors. They're going to come to your vehicle and, of course, just ask what you're coming in for, if you have an appointment, things like that. Once we start the check-in process on your vehicle, we're always going to do what we call a walk-around inspection, and we're going to ask that you come with us. Only reason being is because, you know, a lot of people don't look underneath the hood of their car. A lot of people don't know what they're looking at when they do. So whenever we do this walk around, we're always going to pop your hood. We're always going to check your fluid levels, you know, look at your belts and your hoses and things like that, because a lot of people don't understand what goes through those hoses.
Yeah.
What, you know, what is driven by a belt.
Yeah.
And if we see those types of things on the drive, we're going to point it out to you to let you know and to help educate you so you better understand what it takes to keep your vehicle running. So, you know, it's not one of those, we want to push you over the edge right when you come in the door, or, you know, it's simply to educate you about your vehicle. That way you better understand it. And that's one thing about, you know, what we do for a living is we're not trying to sell you anything. We are trying to better educate you so that way you can make that educated decision to, you know, repair or do the preventative maintenance on your car. So, you know, yes, we do the walk around inspection, but multi-point inspections. Every vehicle gets a multi-point inspection here. Our guys are doing on the back, just like Ben said. All our techs are making sure that they stay on top of those things, from, you know, from wiper blades down to the bottom of the tires. You know, anything in between, our guys are going to make sure that they're covering all of their bases to make sure that your vehicle is in tip-top condition. And that's when it's our job, of course, after we speak with the technician and view that inspection ourselves as an advisor, that we come to you and let you know exactly what they're seeing. You're also going to receive the video of our inspection that our guys are doing. So we've had a bunch of customers I had a guy the other day that was telling me a huge compliment that he really enjoyed how thorough our inspections are.
Yeah.
Seeing the brake measurements, seeing the fluid levels, pulling those filters out, the battery tests, like the whole nine that these guys are doing just to make sure that your vehicle is taken care of.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like you said, kind of when I came into the car business, people still were checking oil, checking transmission fluid, maybe looking at their battery. But in 2026, in a world of AI, there's a lot of our customers that don't even know how to open a hood.
right.
So a couple of things that we do, like Allie said, in the walk around. One, it's a chance for us to build rapport with you, get to know why you're here. Do you have plans today? Do you need to be out of here in a certain time? Give us a chance to have a 2-minute conversation with you so that we can, do you need a shuttle? Is there anything we can do? Are you hungry? We've got a cafe.
Right.
Here's our Wi-Fi password. Just a couple things to build rapport, but also, give that customer a chance to see under their hood. Maybe it's somebody older, maybe it's somebody younger, whatever the chance may be. Maybe they've got a new car that, has got 10,000 miles on it and they've actually never seen under the hood. Perfectly normal. I can tell you, like I said, being in the car business as long as I have, there's stuff on cars now that I don't even know what it does. I have to read about it or get with Kyle or shop foreman and, ask some questions and do some digging to really figure out, because cars are complicated now. The days of opening the hood and checking transmission fluid are completely over. We hadn't had a dipstick in a transmission since 2006,
It's
2007.
been a hot minute.
Yeah, been a while. So, some of those things, it seems like people that used to, work on their own cars, change their own oil, or, with the increase of, oil and oil filters and some of those disposal fees, it's just gotten to a point where we have customers every day that come in and say, look, y'all can change it cheaper than I can. So, while I like changing my own oil, it's just cheaper and more cost effective for somebody else to do it. But when we do that MPI and that video MPI, I think it gives people a little bit more peace of mind to be able to see, the real feel of what their car is and what kind of shape it's in, see underneath it from a lift that they wouldn't normally get to see. So
Right.
our customers really do. They enjoy that, and it's been a great thing at this store.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I guess what are some common misconceptions that our customers have here?
So I guess probably, seeing all sides of it. I'll go work on the parts counter sometimes. Sometimes I'll go mingle with y'all out in the service drive. Sometimes the technicians. I think from being a technician, I was always taught that you inspect every car the same. It doesn't matter. Ray Fry was kind of my mentor growing up. He was my fixed ops director, and he taught us that no matter how many miles the car had, if it had 5 miles or if it had 500,000 miles, you did the exact same inspection every time. You
Every
checked
single
all the
time.
boxes, wrote down all the measurements. I think the bad part about that is sometimes my probably favorite thing to hear in a dealer is, I brought my car in there and y'all found all this stuff wrong with it. And that kind of used to make me, I don't want to say happy as a technician, but nobody ever got to talk about or hear when Ray would come back there and say, hey, I just got off the phone with a customer for 30 minutes and he's at another shop and we didn't tell him that his brakes, he had one brake pad that was at a 1 or a 2 millimeter and we got them marked at 6 or we got them marked at 7. Those are tough conversations with a parent. A lot of kids from schools nearby come and get their car serviced here. Their parents pay, so sometimes you hear, I brought my car and you recommended all this stuff, but nobody ever really hears the flip side of that, where hey, my daughter brought their car there, or my son, they're in college, I'm 1,000 miles away, and you service the car, and now their belt broke on the side of the road, or the brakes are squealing, or you know, they left there yesterday and when they woke up this morning now their tire's flat. You know, nobody really hears those conversations. So it really is, it's our job and a technician's job, like I said, to do an inspection on the car the exact same way every time, regardless of, you know, like I said, if it's got 5 miles, if it's got 500,000 miles, it's the exact same thing every time. They are non-biased. It's not, you know, it's not their job to figure out, hey, you know, this person's traveling or this person's got 30 minutes till they got to leave. We truly just train them to don't take any shortcuts.
Right.
If we gotta have a conversation with a customer and let them know it's going to be a few more minutes to make sure that we inspect their car the way that it deserves to be inspected.
It's the same process every single time.
Yeah.
And I think even on that, what about, you know, kind of on the same topic of, well, you found this X, Y, and Z, and this, and this. The customer's reactions to that is, you know, we kind of take it kind of personal on our behalf, you know, because we just want what's best for the vehicle. We want you guys to be safe at the end of the day. So if we can keep you safe in your vehicle, but nobody is absolutely in any way, shape, or form twisting anybody's arm to do anything on their vehicle. It is just simply our due diligence to make sure that you are aware of everything that's going on that car. Because at the end of the day, like you said, if we don't do an inspection and something does happen, you know, we have to say, of course, I'll say, I hate to say it, but I love to say, you know, I told you. You know, I want to be the person to be like, you know, this is exactly what's going on. If you have any questions about it, if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. But I just need to let you know that is simply my job to do. So.
Yeah, and I think it's important, you know, we talk about multi-point inspections. You know, we start talking about things when they near. Not necessarily that we're recommending them to you right now, but a lot of the, you know, the word tracks or the things that we tell our customers are, you know, when we start, you know, our inspections go green, yellow, red. So green obviously is great. Yellow is when we get down to, you know, 40 to 50%. We call it, you know, may need attention in the future. And then once we get to red, it's, hey, we need to take care of this today. So, you know, in a perfect world, you know, we're green, when we transition to yellow, Allie gets the chance to tell you, hey, everything's great. I know Christmas is around the corner, but in 5,000 miles, when you visit us again, you're probably going to need brakes. So, you know, on our side, we try to do the due diligence of giving our customers the ability to plan financially for that.
Right.
You know, there's nothing worse than this is probably the hardest conversation that I have to have with customers is, hey, now my car needs brakes and rotors, and nobody has told me up until this point that I needed brakes. So not only, you know, did we not mention it when they were in the yellow, but now I don't even need brakes. I need brakes and rotors because the brakes are so bad that it's damaged other components in the braking system. So it's a whole lot easier conversation for me to have, and we tell our technicians this and train them. You know, it's hard to argue with transparency. There's not ever been one engineer that has called me about designing anything on a vehicle. We're simply here to fix what they engineer. So, you know, if you're a male lady, a male man, you need brakes a little bit more frequently than a little lady from Pasadena that drives to church on Sundays.
Right.
You know, driving conditions change people's, you know, the amount of time that things last on their vehicles. You know, talk about towing a lot, you know, the effects that towing has on a vehicle and just some of the wearables. So, you know, I think it's important that, you know, that we are transparent with our customers and that we, you know, we deliver the news and we tell them when things are, you know, up and coming. that's our job to help you plan financially and to protect your investment, because that's the only reason we're here.
Absolutely.
John David, which is our general sales manager, we laugh sometimes and talk about, the difference in sales and service, and I always tell him to me, they're everything in a car dealership's hard. I mean, there's not one corner of this building that there isn't an obstacle to overcome, but I always kid with John David, that when people come to buy a car, they're looking to buy a car. I've never had one person in my entire career come through those doors in service that's looking to spend money on fixing their car.
Absolutely.
So sometimes that can be an obstacle for Allie and our team to overcome, is, how to make you feel good about your car being broke.
Right.
Because nobody likes a broke car. Nobody wants to spend unnecessary money that, they weren't planning for. So a whole lot easier for us to talk about it up front, and then, help you plan financially, and what to look for the next time you come in for service.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, how do you feel about this being our first podcast?
Yeah,
Are you excited for the future?
Yeah, I am excited. I cannot stand being on a camera. Everybody that watches this that knows me is probably going to pass out when they see that I'm on here. Like I said,
but I told you, we're hanging out.
Yep.
We're just talking about what we do every single day.
We are, and obviously everybody knows that, the car business is near and dear to my heart. This store, Mr. Edwards hired me when I was 20. I came from another Toyota dealer, been here ever since. And it's been a huge part of my life. The 15 years that I've spent here, I've gotten married. I got a little girl that's 4 years old, or should be 4 in September. I've gained 50 pounds since I've been here. Just a lot of, I've walked in these doors in every stage of my life. So it's been a huge thing for me. It's been very important to me throughout my life. Toyota, I'm a Toyota guy through and through. So I'm excited. I'm
Good.
excited to. I was talking to Ray this morning. He was kind of in here looking at some of the stuff we were setting up, and I'm excited to talk to some of these people that I've done my career with and have known me since I was 20, and just some of the things that we've watched change, and to answer some of the questions that our customers do have. Maybe give people a little bit more of an insight on what our people deal with, parts guys, advisors, technicians.
Because they don't see, they see us.
Yeah.
We don't get to see a lot of you. We
Yeah.
don't get to see a lot of them. So, what do they do every single day?
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes a whole village to keep a dealer going.
Yeah, and one thing that that I learned being in this position was, that coming from a technician background, I always, if you don't think that a technician is right 100% of the time, just ask them. We're always right, no matter what. It's never our fault. That's just the way we're wired. So when I got in this position and started making some different moves throughout the dealership, and got to learn Allie's role a little bit better. I've never been a service advisor. I definitely could not be. I'd be in the unemployment office, but parts, all different areas. There is no harder position in a service department than a service advisor. Anybody that's watching this that has been a service advisor, it truly is. It's a tough position. People really don't understand what they go through on a daily basis, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in some of the near-end podcasts, and just how hectic their lives are every day. And I think that if people understood a little bit better at some of the things, most people now have an extended warranty or a contract or a VSC that they've purchased, whether it be from us, credit unions, banks, wherever it may be. People truly don't understand the things that they go through to get some of these warranty concerns covered, to where, the customer gets to use that warranty and not, spend hard-earned money out of their pocket. And I think that if people understood that a little bit better, they would probably their attitude would change just a little bit. Like I said, me being a technician, I have a ton of respect for an advisor. They really were my lifeline the majority of my career. I mean, it was who I depended on to assist me in making a living and being able to pay my bills and put food on the table for my family. So that's probably me walking into this. That's my biggest thing. I think Allie's a little bit more interested in some of the questions that our customers and our viewers
Absolutely.
have, and we're super excited about that. But when I looked at this and really started talking about it, I really want people to see a day in the life of some of our employees, and not only the commitment that they've made to our customers to keep them safe, keep their car in working order, kind of like the parts guy, everybody always talks about, some of the things that parts does, and, maybe, I don't know, maybe something didn't get here in time, or, it's always, we have back order parts.
Absolutely.
And, parts catches the brunt of that, not only from the advisor, but from the technician, sometimes even the customer. Nobody ever talks about, Alex being here at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, making sure that all these parts for these cars that we do have customers coming in, that they're on the shelf, they're ready, so that it can be as quick and painless of a process as possible. So I'm excited to show some of that, and to introduce some of these people and the people behind the scenes.
Right.
So
I think people will love to put the face to the name, and
yeah.
little things, and I mean, just like you said with the extended warranty, I have to do that today. Speaking of which, I got some hoops to jump through, Ben.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I believe that this is going to be a wrap, because I'm going to be on the phone all day.
Yep.
Nobody sees that, but I'm going to be on the phone all day.
I think one thing that we need to do, this wasn't planned at all. I was actually just to make people giggle a little bit at home. Tell me one of the most interesting things or facts about you in the car business that maybe people don't know. I got a really good one, so I figure you probably do too.
I think we were literally just discussing this morning, but every morning, if I don't order a case of C4s from the Amazon, I'm up the road at the 7-Eleven, and they know me by name. They know exactly what I'm coming for, and they know exactly that if my flavor is not in stock, that they're putting them on order.
Yeah.
But a lot of people know Allie is the very energetic. I am constantly wired and goofy. So people, of course, tell me, Allie, why in the world are you drinking a C4? You are already wired constantly. What is wrong with you? And it's just because I love to be happy. I love to, crack people up all day long, and that's what I'm here for. So people know me as the C4 girl.
Yeah.
I am C4 Allie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I think I was thinking about this. I didn't know when I was going to do it. So, a lot of people now see me as the business guy.
The boss man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in an office.
We don't see a lot of Ben.
Yeah. People don't think I'm, a human or can cut up and have fun. So, one thing that a lot of people don't know about me is I was kind of a troublemaker when I was young. So
I could see that, Ben.
yeah, which a lot of technicians are. So Chris Shear, that is our top pro ASM here. He's been advisor of the month for Hudson Automotive a couple of months in a row. I started my career at another Toyota dealer. Chris Shear was there as well. When I was 17, I had a bad attitude, like a lot of 17-year-olds do. Chris Shear used to send me home from this Toyota dealer. Yep. So a lot of people don't know that. We're going to do some stuff with Chris in the future, and I'm sure he'll be a guest on the podcast. But yeah, I mean, anybody that has anything that they want to talk about, want to hear me and Allie talk about in the car business, whether it be parts, service, maybe even see Brian from the body shop in it. A lot of people don't know a lot about, body shop stuff, and it's a weird world. It's a world of its own.
It's a completely different one.
But anything that you want to hear about,
topics,
talk a little bit more about
questions,
Yeah.
anything you want to know about cars. You
Yep.
know, we are the people that we can answer it.
Yeah.
Give us something to talk about.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's why we're starting this. That way, you know, you guys are more involved, and we're here to help.
Yep.
So, because in this industry, shift happens.
Shift happens. Thank y'all.